We are undeniably living in a time of hate, violence, and worst of all, divided as a community and nation. It is certainly time that we all gather together for the well-being of our community and make what we have here at home viable and notable. At the end of the day, and despite our disagreements, we are here to pave the path for all children that will hopefully carry the torch and march towards a better and more secure future than the one we are presently living. With that said, I will remind you that perhaps you've unintentionally neglected our intellectually disabled population and should reconsider many points I've previously discussed. Please understand that the majority of our students do not have a voice. The majority of our most vulnerable population does not have the funds to hire an advocate to diligently fight for their rights. The majority of our students' parents already carry a heavy load and do not have the energy to come before you, so I will do my part as a teacher and citizen to speak on their behalf. At our last meeting, your attorney suggested you no longer address my concerns. And though that didn't surprise me, I find it interesting considering the fact that the 9 of you are privileged enough to be in those seats because I and the rest of this community voted to have you there. Yet, you choose to ignore me. If the fear is that of legal matters, you can rest assured I would never cause an additional financial burden that would only further hinder our students. But aside from that, I feel that refraining from listening to me outside these 3 minutes, you intentionally avoid listening to the concerns I have brought forth that affect our schools and our children, the ones you were elected to represent. I am not paid to be here and I get nothing in return for doing so, but I do get gratification for doing what is right and voicing my opinion on a matter that evidently, based on facts previously addressed, are genuine. My purpose for today and that of our next 11 visits for the year will be a plea on behalf of our intellectually disabled students, their parents and teachers. I ask that you make a conscious effort to visit our classroom, to meet our students and their parents, and to see for yourself that my concerns are not false or delusional, and that many things need to change sooner than later if we intend to provide a free and appropriate public education under IDEA 2004. Understand that as a community and as a nation, we need to set the bar high for all our students so that we can actualize successful citizens for our future. The bar, however, can only be set high if the necessary personnel, tools, and resources are in place, something which this school district lacks. Join me and others in doing what is right for our intellectually disabled children who desperately need us all. Make it a point to truly represent all those families that elected you to represent them. Make it a point to keep our students with disabilities in our schools and not drive them to seek a supposedly better education elsewhere. Remember that special education is a service, not a place, as stated by federal law. Reflect on the fact that yearly many parents transfer their children to private schools and charters in search of something better, in search of something appropriate, in search of something that meets their child's unique needs. In other words, something this district is not providing. Ask yourself what our school system is doing wrong or simply not doing that deprives parents of what their hard-earned money pays through taxes. You see, I'm a strong believer that the only limits are those imposed upon ourselves. Yet our students with intellectual disabilities have been placed on this earth with limits. And it should be our responsibility to set them free of those limits and allow them the opportunities to beat the odds.
Thank you very much, Ms. Bacallao. Thank you for your reassuring words about your motivation for being here and for advocating for your students. David? Yes, sir, Dr.
Thank you. It's very difficult to sit here over 2 months and be told that we're not doing anything. Is anyone aware of what the concerns were that were discussed last board meeting, and can they give us any kind of a status as to how they're being addressed, or if they're not actual?
Mr. Chair, I believe that we were advised by legal not to provide comments to this speak. Correct, Mr. Attorney?
Yes, through the chair. I would say that in terms of speaking to her status, I think that I would advise that you limit your comments with regard to this.
Well taken, but I appreciate that.
But I think that it's still fair to make a comment. I believe the individual, as was stated before, is no longer a teacher, number one. Two, the individual, and I'm not saying that this individual is advocating for her current endeavor or company. I'm not saying that, but there is the possibility of that, and I'm being very careful with those words. Thirdly, to simply provide an umbrella statement, a blanket statement, that children with disabilities are not cared for in our school system after this board listened eloquently to teachers who were here speaking about what they do for these children. As we visit many special centers as well as special classrooms in this school system, is to both insult the teachers, the principals, and the devotion of this board to these kids. So I heard a lot, and I'm ready to listen for the next 11 months if that's what it takes. But superlatives, all, none, everything, like I heard, are always suspect in any setting. And one does not need to go to law school to understand that. So it pains me to hear what was said. I do think a lot of great things happen in all of our schools, notwithstanding some of the challenges, the problems that we face. And I think I ought to leave it there in light of the board attorney's admonishment. The other thing I'd like to say, because I think we've exhausted the speakers from Ben Franklin, and I heard both the words, the pleas, as well as some of the reaction. And there are always three sides to every story. I heard quite a bit. I was at the school. And I'm going to say this, God help the principal. God help the principal. If some of the issues, when I was there, if some of the issues, when I asked of the leadership of the school, tell me everything. And today, I heard everything but what I heard at the school, which was consistent with what this group conveyed to us when they first came to us. The issues of sanitation, just received a text message as I'm sitting here from the principal saying, I don't know anything about snakes. I don't know anything about critters. So I have requested every one of the sanitation reports. I have requested every one of the inspections. And before we jump the gun and indict people publicly, because it's easy to do, sitting targets can't even look straight. They have their back. We ought to look at that. I'm going to look at it. And what I can tell you is, God help the person who lied, if somebody did. God help that person. Because what was said here at the first public hearing regarding this matter did not include a lot of the information that now was put on the microphone. And in my visit, and I walked into a lot of those classrooms, I walked the field, I walked around the portables, I went into the cafeteria, I went into the restrooms, and not at any point was I told about some of the issues that were relayed to the board here. So I'm going to get to the bottom of it. And I am at this point extremely interested in matching the words from these good people to what I saw and what I was told or not told, or what the safety inspections will reveal. All I am interested in is the truth. And as I said, if we have a principal or any level administrator that fails to convey the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but, then we need to have a conversation about that. And I will leave it there at this point.
Yes, thank you. Dr. Gallen.
Yes, through the chair. I was trying to wait until each and every speaker at Ben Franklin spoke. I'll speak to that issue, but I want to regress a little bit with respect to the prior speaker. I too have had an opportunity over the past several years to observe the admonishments about what can't be said, what cannot be said. But with respect to a speaker who has demonstrated a great degree of resolve regarding an issue relative to children, I too echo the sentiments of the superintendent to the extent that there are issues related to the education and the educability of our children.